Massive cargo ship blocking the Suez Canal is finally freed this morning after being stuck for 6 days. We want to talk all about this with Julie Swann. She's North Carolina State University's logistics expert. And Julie, it's great to have you on the program. So the ship is on the move, clearing up this passage here, the critical waterway. You're a logistics expert. So I want to ask you, is this the disruption that we saw in the supply chains, is that just short-lived and we're back to business as usual? Or what are the next steps from this point on?
I think we're going to continue to see some of the impacts from this. Of course, we know that most of the goods that were coming through there are intended for Europe, and those that are entering the retail stores in Europe probably won't have a huge impact on things in the United States. But I think we're going to see a couple of kinds of things. There were some ships that went down past the point of Africa, and so those are going to take longer, so that's going to add to the delays. It will take days for ships to get through the Suez Canal. And there's another aspect that I think could impact the U.S. in the days to come. And that's if there are parts on the ship that are going to factories in Europe, but the goods from those factories in Europe get shipped to the U.S. later. So there could be delays in that manufacturing, which could impact either businesses or consumers in the U.S. in the coming weeks.
Julie, forgive me for being self-centered in the United States, but I'm going to ask you this directly. Would we expect, if that were to happen, let's say parts made that have to come out of Hamburg to come to the United States, that doesn't necessarily mean prices in the United States, though, are going to go up, does it?
No, not necessarily. I think the most likely impact is that there will just be continued delays. We've already seen some in our global supply chains, most recently with the backlogs on the ports in the West Coast. And so this is just going to add to those where there will just be some products that are difficult to get for a little while.
Julie, I was reading, I think there's over 360 vessels that were waiting to pass through the canal because of this backlog here. Are we able, I don't know if you can answer this question, but will we see an increase in the number of ships then moving through that waterway over the next couple of days? Is that something that's feasible? Or I guess, how do you work through that backlog?
Well, this is a limited space. It is a bottleneck worldwide for maritime traffic. I think it will take several days to get through. And then, after that, there's also the other effects later in getting those containers emptied where they need to go and getting them back into circulation, because that has been another constraint in maritime shipping this year. We are short on containers. It will take a few days for them to get through the canal.
Julie, as a lot of us were watching this unfold, something raced through my head, which was that the terrorist organizations in the Middle East watching this, I bet they got some ideas about the way to really disrupt global trade. Those ships, as they go through any canal, are sitting ducks. Is this an issue that gets highlighted when you get something like this happening?
Well, certainly, I do agree that our global supply chains are vulnerable. They are vulnerable for lots of different reasons. And so that is an important reason for us to really do a deep dive and understand those vulnerabilities so that we can mitigate them. There are many different ways that they could try to disrupt our trade. This is one. I don't think it's the biggest one, but certainly we do have vulnerable supply chains.
Julie, the focus has now started to turn to exactly how this happened. Yes, weather did play a little bit of a role in this, and also who should be held responsible when we talk about the insurance aspect of all this. Any idea on what we would see there, what we could see there?
I think it's going to take some time to sort that out. I have not seen a lot of good information on why this has occurred. We do know that over the years, ships have gotten bigger. Sometimes there are impacts that relate to tide. And of course, sometimes mistakes are made. There will be a lot of people looking at it because there were billions of dollars lost from the delays associated with this blockage.
Julie Swann, great to speak with you, North Carolina State University's logistics expert. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.